All right, now we need to get in some details. As you can see, I'm zooming in so you can kind of see more that I've done. I've darkened my pre-sketch lines. I've done some of the things that I'm going to show you how to do. Um, but I don't want to show you this small. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So this little box where that 5 is going to go, I'm just going to put over here so you can see it a little bigger. It'll be easier to kind of get. Let me make sure this is focused. Okay. Now these letters and numbers are pretty dramatic and dynamic. They have really skinny parts and really big parts. And that curve, the curves and so on, um, make it so. So instead of just trying to outline it, what you want to do is break it up into sections. So I'll point to this one. So the 5 has a thick top, and the bottom part is pretty much an oval. And it kind of fills up most of this space. So if I just kind of think of it like that first, I think we're going to more easily make it look more like a 5. So over here, there's a smaller oval. You can see that, and it might even stick out a little bit farther than the back edge of the 5. So I'm just going to put that in there. And again, this is like drawing whole to parts. Now I can start to connect parts of the 5 together. I can see that there's some empty space right here, and it goes up. So the top part of that, this cross area of the 5 gets skinnier. Then I'm going to get that little curl, move it over a little farther. Maybe let that fill up more space right there so you can kind of get a sense of how to make these letters look a lot like the style of the 5 up there. So I could make this top part, this bottom line right here, even come down a shade, just a shade farther if I wanted to. The top part of this 5, this end right here kind of has a curve to it. It looks like there might even be, if I looked up close, and this is one thing I'm doing also, I'm getting on my phone my original photograph so I can really zoom in and see what's going on. There's even a little bit of a swoopy tip right there. On the back side, there's another one. Might even have a little subtle S curve with another kind of a swoopy little tip right there. And I'm not expecting all of these to be exactly like the numbers and letters on the bill, but this is a good way to kind of construct them. These numbers have a line on the inside and a shadow on the outside. That may be a little bit limited. I think I'll be able to show you, I'll make one smaller in here. And actually, we'll get into that in the next video when we talk about the shading and rendering. Okay, so that's how you can, whether it's a 5 or a 1 or do a $2 bill or a 20, it's the same process. Break it up into its basic sections, then start to, um, um, kind of go with the contours. Now, these letters, and again, they're clearer here, but I could, kind of look from here as well. The first thing you need to do is just section off where they're going to go and get those kind of even. Then you can kind of think the same way. Just like with this S, and I'm concentrating on this S on the dark area. When we start to do some of the shading and rendering, we'll leave some of those little highlights and create those shadows. Again, think of it as, do it very lightly first, let it kind of float inside that box a little bit because there's other things happening around it. And again, on your drawing, it may only be that side. So you really have to just kind of suggest where things go at first. So the E, you can just make a pretty basic E first, but I'm going to also include, because you can see how the E kind of hangs down far right there, how it kind of hangs up right there, and how the center part is kind of smaller. We can even start to put on those little extras. Now also, when you do your drawing, this photograph starts with a D and it has states. If it works out that your drawing only starts here and it only has the E or the S-E-T-A and maybe the T and it gets cut off right there, that's no big deal. It really is no big deal. What I'm going to do, and you can do this too if you want to, in mine, I'm going to put some of my family members' names. Instead of United States, I might put my wife's name. Over here is something to do with my grandkids and my daughter and things like that. So you can totally have fun with this a little bit, but it's going to be kind of sneaky. But I am going to try to stay with the same type of style of lettering and numbering. All right, if you are going to do, and when you do, the letters that are surrounded by this dark texture, you want to think about the negative space. Okay, so when I, again, section these off, so if I was going to do the E, this E right there, I want to look at the negative space. See, there's that little dark triangle inside the E. There's another little dark triangle inside the E. I can kind of think about where it connects here, where it connects there, and this kind of goes, see, there's our E. Went a little bit too far. And again, when you're working really small, I mean, if you think about this, if that E is in that kind of a space, and that's more like what it might be over here, you can, you have to really kind of just fake it in. I mean, that might be an E when it gets that small. All right, so that's all there is to that. We'll talk about some of the rendering, some of the little teeny tiny details and things like that in the next video.